Hey, this is Travis with another video for you guys. So today I'm going to be talking about a pretty cool piece of equipment called a Sissy squat machine essentially. A very simple device, but it's a pretty cool way to emphasize the quadriceps, which are your big thigh muscles on top. And it basically does that by keeping your tibia a little more vertical. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that in a minute. It's a nice way to emphasize some muscle groups that maybe you're trying to bring up if it's a lagging body part for you. You know, everyone knows it's not a good thing to skip leg day, so this is a way to maybe spice it up, make it a little more interesting. I'll be showing some variations on this piece of equipment as well. A way to make it a little bit stronger that doesn't necessarily involve weights and also won't put quite as much strain on your ACL, because there are ways to do this machine that can be a little bit counterproductive and perhaps increase your injury rate. So I'll be talking about that at the end. And then one last variation at the very end of the video, which is kind of an old school quad exercise that actually doesn't involve this machine, but just kind of a cool thing you guys might not have seen before. So if you're interested in how to do that, stay tuned and we'll get started. Okay, so there are other variations on this device here. This is the one I'm using today, is by Titan Fitness, which is a pretty cool company. I think they make some pretty solid pieces of equipment that don't necessarily break the bank. So a little cheaper than some of the things you might find by some other manufacturers. And for the most part, they're pretty sturdy. If anybody had asked me, one of the things I would have done is had them either put some bigger pads here or be able to adjust this bar farther in. So one of the problems I've had with it is it's hard to get sometimes a very secure kind of intimate foot placement inside of here. So what I've done is I've actually put some squat shoes on. If you have those, then great, you don't necessarily have to. I also bolstered it up with just some tape to kind of make them a little thicker. You could certainly slide some foam in there or something like that to bolster it up, or just get some bigger, those little foam cylinders if you know how to find those. Simplest way to use this thing is you really just step into it. Okay, once you feel like you're fairly secure. Now normally if I were to squat, my knees are going to come forward a lot to prevent me from falling backwards. But because I'm stabilized against this pad now, I really don't have to worry about falling back, and I can keep my tibia or my shin very vertical. And so what that allows me to do is really get a lot of knee extension here. So it's sort of almost the equivalent of doing like a leg extension machine where my feet are fixed, or what we call a closed chain. And so I'll just come in here, and if you're pretty strong, this can be just a nice way to warm up your quads even. So I'll just come in here sometimes. And what I like to do, since I'm not going to load this up real heavy, is I won't really pause at the top or the bottom. I just kind of do these continuous reps. And sometimes I don't even count. I just come in here and I'll just go until I feel like I've either, gotten the amount of warm up I'm looking for, or my quads are feeling somewhat fatigued. So I'll come in here. Now certainly for some people this could be more of a true exercise. This could be a workout. So in that case you may want to do, a little more of a deliberate pause at the top and the bottom. But since again I'm a little stronger than that, fortunately, I'll do those pumping style reps. Now you might get the ceiling with that pretty early, and some people will say, well, it's great to emphasize your quads, but because you can't load it up too heavy, it's maybe not as effective. So let me show you guys how to put some load onto this, and then I'll talk about some other ways to maybe give yourself a little more bang for your buck. All right, so as any of you know who followed my other content, I'm a pretty big fan of bands. One of the nice things with this device is when you use band tension, you get the most tension at the top and the least at the bottom. And the bottom is where you're really getting a tremendous demand on sort of the ligaments in the knee, particularly like the ACL. And there's actually a video going around I've seen where somebody definitely looks like they shredded their ACL on this. And that's because this person is holding a plate against their chest, and they're also leaning their torso way back. So that's going to put a lot of shear. So the goal is you want to load the quads without really giving a tremendous amount of shear to the knee. So I really wouldn't advocate leaning back, certainly not with a lot of weight, because the distance from your knee is just too great. So if you were going to hold the weight, you certainly could hold the dumbbell and come in here and squat, and you'd probably be fine. I just really like the way the band tension feels. And so what I did is I fixed the band onto the back of this here. Okay, just pretty simply, it just put it underneath, and then it's secured to this thing. Now, what you're going to do then is step into this, and I'll step on the center bar so that I don't actually pull this thing up, because this thing is pretty light compared to all the tension on this band. Again, this is a Perform Better band. I'll put the link at the bottom of the video. So I step on that center bar and I come in here, sort of get one foot anchored. I'm trying to get this thing around more of the bony prominence area of my hip. For those who are more anatomically inclined, your ASIS area. Okay, so once I've got it secured around this kind of ASIS pelvis area, I've got a lot of tension now with this band trying to set me back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and fall into that squat pattern and then come up. And so I really like the way that I get quite a bit of tension at the top, so I really feel a good burn in the quads as I'm coming up. But then when I come down, I don't get quite as much. But it's a nice way to just really feel like you're getting a good burn in the quads. And so, I'll come in here, and again, I don't necessarily always count. I'll just kind of go to that point of muscle failure, and once I'm there, off you go. To get out of this thing, step back on that center bar, and then pull it off, because sometimes this thing will definitely fly away on you if you're using a band with some pretty high tension. Now, what I would typically recommend for some of the stronger lifters, the guys that are squatting several hundred pounds, this isn't going to be extremely difficult of an exercise as a standalone. It's really to emphasize the quads. So the way I would typically program it is I might use this to pre-exhaust the quads. So I might do this thing and then go and do, some of your bread and butter leg exercises like your squats, your lunges, your step up type exercises, your big bang for your buck, movements. For the lower half at least. Or I might do this on the back end. I might do it as a burnout. So if I've already done sort of a leg day or a leg, heavy workout where I've done those exercises, whether it's a back squat, front squat, lunge type movement, then I come in here at the end of all those and I just kind of hammer those quads. And that's just a cool way to program this to really get some emphasis. And again, I really like to do it with a band because I don't need to load this up real heavy. But again, it's there for you if you guys want to. I typically, if I was going to load this up, would probably put a dumbbell in front. So I might just grab a dumbbell. I'm not grabbing a heavy one here, but just to show you guys, maybe put it in a goblet style position, and then I would go in here and do this exercise. And certainly if you had a kettlebell, same thing, you could do that also. And that's the sissy squat. All right, now for those of you who find yourself in a commercial gym or a garage gym and you just maybe don't have a budget for this or you don't want to get one because you want to emphasize quads, but you're not that into emphasizing your quads. I get it, this is kind of a specialty piece of equipment. Pretty cool for those of you who are into it though. But a cool exercise that I haven't really seen too many people doing in the gym, fairly old school way to work the quads, somewhat in a closed chain position. I'm going to use this pad, but you certainly could use the end of a bench. I'll move it here so you guys can sort of see what I'm up to. You're going to put your feet on top of a pad, and then you're going to bend your knees and extend them. Sometimes this works better if your feet were a little higher, but you get the idea. I'm trying to really push myself out by straightening my legs. And the cool thing with that is you definitely get stabilization in your upper half because it's like you're holding a push-up, get your core as you get a little quads. And so that's kind of an old school way. I think older bodybuilders typically would do it more to burn out their quads. I don't know that anybody did that as a standalone exercise, but it's there for you for those of you who want it. One last thing I'll say about quads, if I had somebody that came to me that really wanted to develop their quads maximally, sort of an untapped resource, at least in the more fitness culture bodybuilding community, not that I am one, but cycling is definitely an underrated exercise for the quads. If you look at a lot of track cyclists, they have really great quadriceps. Oftentimes better than bodybuilders. So if you're somebody looking to emphasize your quads and you're not riding a bike right now, I would say that's definitely something you should probably get after. There's different ways to program that. I would say doing some sprinting style workouts, and I won't necessarily get into it in this video, but maybe at some point down the future I will. But you could definitely do some intervals where you're really, hitting high intensity for, a series of cycles with some rest periods can be a pretty effective way to really hit the quads as well. So these exercises are one way to do it. Cycling is certainly another. If you marry both together, you probably can get the best results. So that's all I'll say about quads for today. Again, more content to come. I'm trying to get to it again as fast as I can, but life's kind of getting in the way. But as soon as I get another video to you guys, I'll definitely try. Please comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Any upcoming content you guys would like to see you haven't seen yet, I'm happy to try to entertain some special requests. So, as always, I hope you guys have some fun.